My name is Lauren Elizabeth Carter, 36 years old, and last Sunday I finally understood what the word outsider feels like inside your own family. We were all crowded around the dining table for the usual weekly dinner when my 10-year-old niece Harper looked straight at me, rolled her eyes the way only a preteen can, and announced loud enough for the whole room to hear, "You can't sit with us. My father said you're an outsider." The table exploded in laughter. My dad slapped the table so hard his beer almost tipped over. My mom covered her mouth but couldn't hide the giggles. My younger half-brother just leaned back in his chair with his smug little grin while his wife gave Harper a proud pat on the back. I stood there holding the lasagna I'd spent 2 hours making, the one I'd also paid for along with the roof over their heads, the electricity, the Wi-Fi, everything. Nobody stopped laughing. Nobody told her that was wrong. Nobody even looked at me. So I set the dish down, picked up my keys, and walked out without a single word. Later that same night, while I was still sitting in my car trying to process what just happened, my phone lit up. Text from Dad. "Hey, sweetheart. Payment's still due tomorrow, right? Mortgage is on auto draft from your account as usual." I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I typed back 2 words and hit send. Figure it out. If you've ever been the family bank that nobody respects, smash that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because this story does not end with a group hug. I drove home that night with the windows down, even though it was freezing, just needing the cold to slap some sense into me. For 8 straight years, I've been the one keeping that house from falling apart. I'm a senior project manager for one of the biggest commercial construction firms in Atlanta. 6-figure salary, bonuses twice a year, company truck, the whole package. I run multi-million-dollar jobs from groundbreaking to ribbon cutting and still manage to be home by 7 most nights. The house everyone was laughing in? Titles in my name only. My grandfather, Charles Carter, signed it over to me the week he got his cancer diagnosis. He pulled me aside after Thanksgiving dinner, pressed the deed into my hand, and said, "Lauren, you're the only one in this family who finishes what she starts. I want this house to stay with someone who earns it." I was 28 then. I didn't argue. I just started paying the mortgage the next month because Dad's disability checks barely covered groceries, and my half-brother Ethan couldn't hold a job longer than a season. Ethan showed up on my doorstep at 20 with Brittany already pregnant and nowhere to go. Dad begged me to let them stay just until the baby comes. Harper arrived 10 weeks early. Hospital bills piled up. I covered those too. Then came daycare, diapers, braces, iPads for school, Brittany's small business that never turned a profit. 8 years of temporary turned into me paying every single bill while they turned the basement into a live stream studio so Brittany could sell cheap jewelry to strangers online. They never paid rent. They never paid utilities. They never even bought their own groceries half the time. I set up auto draft for the mortgage, the HOA fees, the water bill, all of it, because it was easier than listening to the excuses every month. I told myself I was doing it for Harper. That little girl used to run to the door screaming, "Aunt Lauren," every Friday when I came home from work. She'd beg me to read her the same princess book 20 times in a row. Somewhere along the way that stopped. Somewhere along the way, she started repeating whatever her parents whispered when they thought I couldn't hear. Megan, my best friend since college, has been telling me to stop for years. We met for drinks the morning after the dinner disaster. She didn't even let me finish the story. "Sell the damn house, Lauren." I laughed into my coffee. It's not that simple. It's exactly that simple. Your name is on the deed. They have 0 legal right to be there. You give them 30 days written notice and they're out. End of story. I kept stirring sugar I didn't want. They're family. They're squatters with better Wi-Fi. She leaned across the table and lowered her voice. "You're 36. You've never bought yourself a real vacation. You drive a company truck because you can't afford a car payment on top of that mortgage. When's the last time you went on a date that didn't end with you rushing home because Brittany needed emergency cash for Harper's sudden ear infection? She was right about all of it. I'd become the family's safety net nobody bothered to thank, because why thank the net when you never planned to fall? That same afternoon, I pulled the original deed from my safe deposit box and read every line again. Then I opened a real estate attorney I've worked with on commercial deals. He confirmed what Megan already knew. In the state of Georgia, if your name is the only one on the title and they're not paying rent, they're tenants at will. 30 days notice and I can start eviction proceedings if they refuse to leave. I hung up and stared at the paperwork for a long time. For the first time in 8 years, I let myself imagine what my life would look like without that monthly $5,000 draft leaving my account. Without the group chat blowing up every time the internet slowed down. Without coming home to find my furniture rearranged for Brittany's next ring light setup. I closed the folder, slid it back into my bag, and felt something shift, quiet, cold and final. The house wasn't theirs anymore. It never really had been. My alarm went off at 6 the next morning and the phone was already burning up. 63 missed calls, mostly from Dad and Ethan, a few from Mom, and one unknown number that turned out to be Brittany using Harper's tablet. I scrolled through the texts while the coffee brewed. They started polite, moved to confused, then straight to furious. Dad's messages were all caps. "Call me right now." Mom sent the crying emojis she saves for emergencies. Ethan wrote an entire paragraph about how I was destroying his daughter's future. Brittany topped it off with a 30-second video of Harper sitting on the stairs, eyes red, voice shaky. "Aunt Lauren, why don't you love us anymore?" I watched it once, closed the app, and blocked every single one of them. Not just muted, blocked. The silence that followed felt louder than any screaming match ever could. At the office, nobody knew anything was wrong. I ran the morning stand-up meeting, approved change orders for a $40 million hospital expansion, and laughed at the right jokes. My boss pulled me aside after lunch and said my focus had been razor-sharp lately. Asked if I was gunning for the director position opening next quarter. I told him I might be. On the drive home, I stopped at the grocery store and bought the expensive steak I'd always skipped because $5,000 left my account every first of the month. I grilled it on my apartment balcony, drank a glass of the good red wine, and slept without the phone on airplane mode for the first time in years. 2 nights later, Brittany posted a long status on the family Facebook group, the one I'd never left because I paid for the internet that let her post it. She wrote that some people put money over blood, that certain sisters forget where they came from the second they get a corner office, and that Harper was asking why her auntie hated her. She ended it with prayer hand emojis and a GoFundMe link to keep a roof over an innocent child's head. The comments rolled in fast. Cousins I hadn't spoken to in a decade calling me cold, church friends from Mom's Bible study saying they were disappointed. A few strangers chimed in with heart react emojis. I screenshot the whole thing, emailed it to the attorney, and asked if defamation applied when the person was technically telling the truth about needing a roof. He wrote back in 10 minutes. "Truth is an absolute defense, but harassment isn't. Keep records." I created a new folder on my desktop labeled Evidence and started dragging everything in. Work stayed steady. My team noticed I wasn't checking my phone every 5 minutes anymore and started calling me Zen Lauren behind my back. I didn't correct them. The extra mental bandwidth went straight into finishing the hospital bid 2 weeks early. Upper management sent a company-wide email praising the Atlanta office. My name was at the top. Meanwhile, the group chat I'd been removed from apparently turned into a war room. Megan forwarded me screenshots Brittany accidentally sent to the wrong thread. Panicked voice notes from Mom about overdraft fees. Ethan promising he'd handle me. None of it moved the needle. I had already stopped translating their emergencies into my responsibility. One evening I came home to find my streaming accounts logged out on every device. Brittany had changed the passwords to Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus, even my work Adobe license because I'd once let her use it for Canva templates. I reset everything through my own email, enabled two-factor, and added a note to the attorney about unauthorized access. The final straw that week came disguised as concern. Dad left a voicemail sounding smaller than I'd ever heard him. "Pumpkin, we're all just worried about you. Come to dinner Sunday. We'll talk this out like adults." No mention of money, no yelling, just the old nickname he hadn't used since I was 12. I saved the message anyway. Ethan walked straight into my office lobby the following Tuesday wearing the same hoodie he'd had since college. Security called my extension before he even reached the elevators. I watched him on the camera feed pacing, running his hands through his hair, rehearsing whatever speech he thought would work. When he made it to the 32nd floor, the receptionist buzzed me again. I told her to send him up. He burst through the glass doors already talking. "You can't just ghost your own family, Lauren. People are asking questions. Harper thinks you hate her." I stayed seated behind my desk, didn't offer him a chair. "This is my workplace." He ignored that and kept going, voice climbing with every sentence. He needed the mortgage money by Friday or the bank would start foreclosure proceedings. Brittany's live stream account got suspended for too many refunds. Dad's truck broke down again. The list went on until the building security supervisor appeared in the doorway and asked if everything was okay. Ethan turned red, started yelling that I was embarrassing him in front of my employees. 2 guards escorted him out. He shouted my full name down the hallway the entire way to the elevator. I emailed HR a heads up, then forwarded the lobby footage to the attorney with the subject line, "Restraining order material." That same afternoon, I drove to the house during lunch. Brittany was in the living room under 3 ring lights, filming an unboxing video, packages stacked on my coffee table like it was her warehouse. She waved at the camera, told her 1,200 viewers how blessed she was to live in such a beautiful home, then spun the lens to show the marble countertops I'd paid to install 2 years ago. I walked in, unplugged the router midstream, and killed the Wi-Fi. The chat exploded with question marks. Brittany spun around, mouth open. I held up my phone showing the utility account in my name only and said the password had been changed. Permanently. She tried the sweet voice first, then the angry one when that didn't work. I reminded her the deed was in my name, the cameras were in my name, even the Ring doorbell subscription was in my name. Anything she posted from inside that house from now on would be recorded and time-stamped. She called me every name she could think of. I waited until she ran out of breath, then left. On the way back to the office, I called the locksmith I use for construction sites. By 6 that evening, every exterior lock had been rekeyed. I dropped the new keys in my purse and taped a simple white envelope to the front door. Inside was a single sheet of paper, printed on my company letterhead. The realtor met me at a coffee shop near the site the next morning. Light pouring through the windows. She slid the comparative market analysis across the table and tapped the top number. The house would list for almost double what the remaining mortgage was. Cash offers were already coming in from investors flipping properties in that school district. I signed the listing agreement on the spot, accepted a 30-day close with no contingencies, and handed over the new keys so the stager could start work. I never told anyone in the family the house was already under contract. Dad tried the soft approach again a few days later. He sent a long text about how Mom wasn't sleeping, how the doctor wanted to put her on new blood pressure medication she couldn't afford, how they were all willing to sit down and talk if I would just come to the house. I read it twice and left it on a read. Brittany switched tactics and started posting throwback photos. Harper's first birthday party in the backyard, Christmas mornings under the tree I paid to have installed, captions about how some people forget the village that raised them. The likes climbed into the thousands. I kept screenshotting. Ethan got himself hired at a warehouse an hour away, Third shift, bragging on social media that he was finally providing for his family. 2 weeks later, he was fired for too many no-call, no-shows. The posts disappeared fast. I spent evenings walking through furniture stores picking out pieces for a place I hadn't even found yet, just to feel what it would be like to choose something only for myself. The saleswoman asked if I was moving for a job or a relationship. I told her I was moving for silence. The attorney drafted a formal demand letter reminding everyone that the 30-day clock was ticking and that any belongings left behind after closing would be considered abandoned. I paid the courier extra for same-day delivery and signature required. Mom signed for it. The courier told my lawyer she looked like she'd aged 10 years. I booked a short-term corporate apartment in Midtown starting the day after closing. High floor, city views, gym on the roof. The leasing agent ran my credit and laughed. With this income and zero debt except the house that's about to be paid off, you could buy the whole building. I almost did. Closing day fell on a Friday. I signed the last document at 9:30 in the morning, wired the payoff amount to the lender, and watched the remaining $412,000 hit my account before lunch. The title company emailed the recorded deed showing clear ownership in my name alone. I forwarded that email to the family group chat I'd never actually left, just muted. One attachment, the final HUD-1 settlement statement with the sale price circled in red. Second attachment, the confirmed move-out date now exactly 9 days away. I added a single line of text, "Pack light, anything left becomes property of the new owner." Then I turned the phone face down and went to celebrate with Megan over oysters and champagne. The moving trucks arrived at 7 on the final Saturday. I watched from across the street in my car while the new owners did their walkthrough. Dad stood on the porch in the same flannel shirt he wore every weekend, arms crossed, staring at the ground. Mom kept dabbing her eyes with a tissue. Ethan loaded boxes into a rented U-Haul that looked half empty. Brittany filmed everything on her phone, narrating through fake tears about how corporate greed was destroying families. Harper carried out her old princess backpack and paused on the steps, looking around like she expected me to appear and stop it all. She didn't see me. By noon, the house stood empty except for a pile of broken ring light stands and a cracked marble cheese board Brittany had shattered against the kitchen island when she realized the security cameras were still recording. The cleanup crew I hired hauled it all to the curb for bulk trash pickup. That same week, Ethan and Brittany turned their eviction into content. They started a TikTok series titled "When Family Betrays You," crying in the U-Haul cab, showing the tiny one-bedroom apartment they'd found in a rough complex 40 minutes away. The videos hit 1 million views in 3 days. Strangers sent Venmo donations and hate comments aimed at me. My locked Instagram got thousands of follow requests from accounts with bios like "Justice for Harper." I never responded once. Dad's blood pressure spiked hard enough to land him in the ER. Mom moved them into a 20-year-old single-wide trailer on a lot owned by one of Dad's old bowling buddies. The rent was cheap, but the deposit cleaned out their savings. Ethan took a job stocking shelves overnight at a big box store and lasted 11 shifts before he walked out mid-inventory. Brittany discovered the donations dried up the moment people realized there was no sob story update every day. She filed for food stamps and started working the early shift at a warehouse fulfillment center, scanning boxes for $9 an hour plus overtime she never got. One afternoon, she left a handwritten letter in my new mailbox, 8 pages front and back, blaming me for ruining Harper's childhood, threatening to take me to court for emotional damages. The return address was a P.O. box. I added it to the evidence folder unopened and forwarded a copy to the attorney. The new owners changed the locks again, painted the front door navy blue, and planted hydrangeas where Brittany's ring light graveyard used to be. I drove past once, slowed down just long enough to see Harper's old swing set gone, and kept going. A thick manila envelope arrived at my office exactly 6 months after closing. Inside was a civil complaint filed in Fulton County Superior Court. Ethan, Brittany, Mom, and Dad had hired a contingency fee attorney who specialized in inheritance disputes. They claimed Grandpa Charles had been unduly influenced when he deeded the house to me, that I had abused a confidential relationship, and that they were entitled to 4 equal shares of the sale proceeds plus punitive damages. I read the petition once, laughed out loud in the middle of the 23rd floor, and hand-delivered it to the litigation partner my company keeps on retainer. 3 weeks later, we filed our motion to dismiss. Exhibit A was the original deed recorded the same week Grandpa was diagnosed. Exhibit B was the video will he had made at the attorney's office stating in his own words that he was of sound mind and giving the house to me because the others will just blow it. Exhibit C was the affidavit from the notary who witnessed everything. The judge granted summary judgment in under 30 days. Case dismissed with prejudice. The family got stuck with $23,000 in my legal fees because the lawsuit was deemed frivolous. Ethan and Brittany split up shortly after the judgment came down. Brittany moved into a studio paid for by Section 8 and started posting thirst trap videos at 2 a.m. to pay her phone bill. Ethan couch-surfed between friends until none of them would answer the door. He eventually rented a room above a mechanic shop that smelled permanently of motor oil. Dad's heart started acting up from the stress. The cardiologist put him on 4 new medications he couldn't afford without Medicaid, which took months to kick in. Mom picked up part-time cashier shifts at a dollar store, standing 8 hours on concrete in non-slip shoes 2 sizes too small because swelling made anything else hurt. Harper changed schools twice in 1 semester when the apartment zoning didn't match the old address anymore. Her grades tanked. The counselor called Brittany in for meetings she kept missing because warehouse overtime paid time and a half. I got promoted to director, took the corner office with the downtown skyline view, and booked a solo trip to Italy I'd been postponing for a decade. I drank wine older than Harper in a hillside village and didn't check my phone for 9 straight days. When I got back, the only mail waiting was a final notice from the court. The judgment lien had been placed on anything Ethan and Brittany owned of value. They didn't have anything left to take. 1 year to the day after that dinner, I stood in the kitchen of my new downtown condo holding the keys to a house I actually chose, paid for, and furnished exactly how I wanted. No ring lights in the corners, no one else's kids' toys underfoot, no group chats blowing up about bills, just floor-to-ceiling windows, the Atlanta skyline at sunset, and a silence that finally belonged to me. I still have 0 contact with any of them. Dad's health is stable but fragile. Mom works the early shift and comes home too tired to argue anymore. Ethan bounces between dead-end jobs and blames everyone but himself. Brittany streams to an audience that's moved on to the next tragedy. Harper is growing up fast in a world that looks nothing like the one she was promised. Sometimes people message me privately after seeing the old viral videos. They ask if I ever feel guilty. They want to know if I miss my niece. If blood really isn't thicker than water. If I sleep okay at night knowing a 10-year-old once called me an outsider and I proved her right. Here's what I've learned, and what I want anyone watching this to take away. Being the responsible one doesn't mean you sign up to be the family ATM forever. Love isn't a blank check. Respect isn't automatic just because you share DNA. And the second you stop rescuing people from the consequences of their own choices, they will call you every ugly name in the book because it's easier than looking in the mirror. I'm not a villain for refusing to light myself on fire to keep others warm. I'm proof that when you finally close the door on people who only love what you provide, not who you are, your life doesn't fall apart. It begins. If you're the one paying everyone else's way while they laugh at you behind your back, hear this. Your peace is worth more than their comfort. Your future is worth more than their excuses. And the moment you choose yourself, The people who truly belong in your life won't need a 30-day notice to stay. I'm 37 now. I travel when I want. I date men who like me, not my bank account. I mentor younger women at work and tell them the same thing Grandpa told me all those years ago. Finish what you start, and never let anyone make you feel like an outsider in a home you built with your own hands. That little girl who once told me I couldn't sit with them? She was repeating what the adults around her taught her, that my money mattered more than my presence. I didn't punish a child. I stopped rewarding the adults who used her as a shield. Today, I'm happier, healthier, and richer in every way that counts than I ever was carrying all of them. And if that makes me the bad guy in someone else's story, I'm perfectly fine with that. Because this is my story, and for the first time in my life, I get the last word.